Hello, how about now, brown cow? Okay, how about?
Yeah, I can hear that.
All right.
Cool.
All right, thanks.
Okay, I'll see
you. Every once in a while, technical difficulties, just part of life. All right, so anyway, you guys couldn't hear me, so I will just jump into it again. Hope you guys had a good start to your week. Happy Monday. Was getting into the mass liquidation that we saw on Friday. So a lot of you, I'm sure, were scared on Friday with the massive drawdown that we saw in the market. I still don't know if that was an exploit on leverage on Binance or if it really was caused by, Trump's threat at 100% tariffs on China. I think that's just the narrative. I think that there was another exploit or something else that happened that caused that massive liquidation. It's the largest liquidation that crypto has ever seen by 9 times, like 9 times larger than any other liquidation that we've ever seen in the market, even more than COVID, even more than FTX, even more than Terra Luna. All of them combined still don't add up to what happened on Friday after the stock market stopped trading and crypto was still open. So, if you made it through it, that's probably the worst of it. I could be wrong. Maybe the reverse carry trade outdoes that, but I don't think so. I say that when Tether goes, it's going to be worse, but there's going to be specific assets that perform very well when that happens in opposition to a collapsing Tether. So hopefully you were not over leveraged. I'm happy to report that none of our clients at Digital Wealth Partners were affected by the largest liquidation event that has ever happened in crypto. No XRP was lost, not a single one, whether that was in the funds or people that had loans out with us. I know that there was like close to $8 billion lost in DeFi, people that were levered up and had borrowed against their digital assets on different platforms. If you were in a DeFi protocol, game over, liquidated, gone, lost your assets. With Digital Wealth Partners, you have counterparties, right? Like we have other people that are willing to work with us in that event. Our advisors were all over it. Thank you, big shout out to everybody on our team for working long hours Friday night and Saturday to make sure that we were able to meet all the margin calls and move assets over and make sure we were able to get things cured for our clients. But again, that's the power of working with an advisor and a team on this stuff is you have somebody else to work with that can make sure that you're not liquidated when this crazy stuff happens in the market, which is going to continue. Crypto is going to be volatile for the foreseeable future until we have regs and stability and utility in this asset class. As long as it's speculative and the wild, wild west like it is today, you're going to have some of this stuff happen. A lot of leverage built up in the system to see that type of liquidation occur. So again, just super blessed and grateful for all the people that work with us and with our clients and our advisors on our team for an outstanding job over the weekend here to make sure that people didn't lose any XRP. And again, even those that had loans on it, we made sure that everybody was able to cover their capital calls. Didn't have to worry about losing their assets. And then again, in the funds, the way that we have those structured, they operated flawlessly. Even though we do have the margin against the XRP or the reflected XRP, again, no counterparty risk. The way that we structure things, no liquidations, no loss of XRP, no issues over there either. The income fund actually made money during the liquidation because they traded some short positions and we're actually up over the weekend. So a little more jingle in the pocket for our LPs over there. We will have, for those that are participating with Digital Wealth Partners and making money in the funds with us on their XRP, we will have the second distribution going out hopefully next week to our clients. We should have a webinar this week for those that are involved and all of the documentation for them to be able to review the performance over the last quarter. Iceman says, Legend, where did the leveraged money go? Who got it? whoever was on the other side of those trades. Markets are a zero-sum game. So there's a winner and there's a loser on both sides of transactions. And you know, if you're trading in the markets, there was a Bitcoin whale. Somebody opened up a large short position on Bitcoin about 30 minutes before that liquidation happened, and made off with about $100 million on that trade. So, you know, that's what kind of makes me think there may be something more to this. If somebody knew, you know, just 30 minutes before that was going to happen and put that large of a trade out and then was able to execute on that, it's a lot of money made and taken from the market in a very short period of time. So head on a swivel. I do think that again is probably the worst of it before we do see some higher price action and moves to the upside. You got gold and silver on tears. We got 4,100 on gold. We've got almost $53 on silver. Markets are moving to risk off in droves at this point. And people that are still in stocks, you know, I think you're playing with fire. There's I don't know how much is left there in the stock market in the large caps or the indexes. We'll just have to see how things play out here. If we have a collapsing currency, everything goes up. It doesn't matter what it is. With the Fed threatening to lower interest rates and weaken our currency some more, you could continue to see other assets continue to inflate in value, whether that's real estate, gold, silver, Bitcoin, XRP, doesn't matter what it is, because if the dollar is collapsing, you will see everything else go up. In the Weimar Republic before World War II, when Germany's currency collapsed, they were rolling around wheelbarrows of cash to buy one loaf of bread. You've seen this in Argentina. You've seen it in Zimbabwe and other currencies as they've collapsed. Their stock markets melted up during those circumstances. And we do have a melt up on our hands right now across all assets, at least until the reverse carry trade unwinds. And then it's going to suck all that leverage out. So waiting on that. We do have some decisions from the central banks. Oh, thank you, my wonderful wife with the tea. Pumpkin tea. I'm basic. I enjoy my fall things. So yeah, we've got the central banks coming out with the changes in the rates here this month. Later, be interesting to see how things unfold as the month goes on. Still waiting on ETFs potentially being approved. Don't know if that's going to happen while the government shut down. Guess is as good as mine. If they are able to put out a standard for how the spot ETFs are able to be proposed and they're automatically approved, I don't think the SEC has to actually approve them. If they meet those standards, they should just list and go on through. Since it's not, they don't have to file. I mean, they still have to file the S1, but if they meet all the criteria, it should just get approved. So have to see how all that shakes out. But I think everything's in place for the perfect storm that I've talked about for almost more than a year and a half now with the domino theory to play out in full force, and for us to get that amazing price appreciation on some of the investments that we have, namely XRP. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and jump into the questions tonight. I appreciate you guys taking time out on your Monday to hang out with me and ask the great questions that you guys do. We got Luke Wilson, Mr. Wilson. He says, greetings, Jake. I've been researching the reverse carry trade. Wouldn't it be bad for all markets, including crypto? If so, why is it a good thing for XRP? Well, Luke, if you would go listen to my domino theory videos, I explain exactly step by step how the reverse carry trade would lead to the appreciation of XRP. Mainly, you know, there's going to be huge unrealized losses on the back end of the stock market for the Bitcoin ETFs, and they won't have any other assets to be able to pull from to cure those losses. At this point, Bitcoin for sure has systemic risk because of all the pension funds and other hedge funds and large wealth managers and other people that have made large allocations to it. And so if you had huge unrealized losses because Bitcoin trades real time, the only way to be able to mitigate those losses would have to, move to real time settlement on the back end of the stock market. And with Project Ion, which was finalized in 2022 between the DTCC and R3, primary settlement mechanism for that application and Corda is XRP. And with the Clarity Act being delayed because of the government shutdown and some of the other proposals that have now been put forth by the Democrats around DeFi, it looks like we might not see the Clarity Act until 2026, giving XRP an edge, you could say, here in the US as the only digital asset with some sort of legal clarity. And if they were able to drive enough liquidity into it, they could then begin to use it on the back end of the stock market. This person says, I'm in Beyond Broke. I have an LLC. Can you guys take it over from the current registered agent? Yes. Yeah, we can take it over from the current registered agent. So on that, many people work with us to be able to set up a digital asset holding company or a holding company that manages their alternative investments with a sleeve cured out for digital assets or crypto investing. The reason that you want to do it that way and set it up in Wyoming is a trading corporation doesn't allow you to capitalize on long-term capital gains. And we provide a template for the operating agreement with all the language in there that you're going to need to be able to manage digital assets with the corporation. If you do the trading company, then you're not going to get, again, the benefit of long-term capital gains on your holdings. So if you had held more earlier on, maybe you bought during the bear market and dollar cost average, not going to get that benefit if you set it up that way. The NAICS code that we use is 5511112 and 5511114. Both of those are holding companies that manage assets. So again, happy to work with people on their LLC. If you want to work with us on that, you can use the code 50OFF50 OFFDAG LLC. That's 50 off DAG LLC. Gets you everything you could ever want for a digital asset management company for $2,000. You get the creditor protection. There's charging order protection there in Wyoming. One of the many reasons we set that up there. This person asked, what are the costs? It's $2,000 all in if you use that code that I just gave you at digitalfamilyoffice.io. So the creditor protection, you get anonymity because we're going to file it on your behalf. All of our information is what's going to be listed on the documentation publicly. So none of your stuff, not your address, not your name, not anything associated with you would be listed on those documents. So you'd maintain full anonymity while you're able to operate your LLC. No state taxes there in Wyoming. That's of a benefit, depending on which state you're in. You may have to still file as a foreign entity in certain states. The Democratic states, including Washington and California and New York, are going to require that. They're still going to get their state taxes. Not really a whole lot you can do, unfortunately, on that side of things. But the last but not least, the regulation there in Wyoming is the most favorable state when it comes to digital assets. And you might say, well, I live in a different state. How can I file in Wyoming? We use a thing called a registered agent. We partner with a group there. You're able to use their location as your the address that's listed on your LLC. It does, have an annual fee, and we do charge those annual fees to make sure that we're maintaining your corporate veil, helping you make sure you're maintaining that creditor protection and that anonymity on an annual basis so that you can continue to operate. When you move the assets in there, there's not a tax implication. I know a lot of people are concerned about that, and rightly so. The way that we structure it is a single member disregarded entity. And so when you move the assets in there for the initial capital contribution, it's not a taxable event. There's no step up in basis or time frame held. So you get all the benefits with none of the downsides when you work with us to set up an LLC. All right, go ahead and jump into some more questions here. We've got my SPR Psychos. They say, hey, Jake, beyond grateful for you. Thank you. Appreciate you, man. And the team, LLC, trust, etc., is all set up through you. Awesome. You mentioned for tax benefits, I should set up another LLC outside of the trust. When should I get that going? If you don't have any, if you've already gifted the assets into the trust, then you don't worry about it. Some people want to go ahead and get that done now. The only downside to that is if you generate income inside of that trust, that's going to get passed to you. And if you don't, well, you can pass it to yourself. Otherwise, you're going to have to pay it out of the trust itself. Anything over $15,000 a year generated in income inside of a trust is going to be taxed at 37.5%. So it's not great. So you want to be able to pass those taxes somewhere else, ideally, or have some type of write-off because the LLC is in there and it's managing the assets. So if you had a management company that just happened to charge the amount that you made on the assets each year, that would be a way that you could move, that money outside the LLC and the trust to yourself to be able to pay you and do what you're going to do while limiting creditors' ability to take it from you. So our team can help you do that. We're actually bringing on some more attorneys and paralegals right now to be able to kind of bring some things in-house over the next 12 months or so. And yeah, we'll continue to have great partners like Laughlin as our paralegal group that we're working with, but on many of the other structures and things, including foundations and charitable remainder trust and some of the other stuff that's a bit more bespoke. We're bringing on personnel to be able to cover those things. So if you want to work with us on that, we would love to work with you. Whoever set up your trust on our side should be able to help you structure the LLC and give you the best legal advice when it comes to that if you want to set it up outside of the trust. We got Wetter, they say legend. I have 300K deployed as of tomorrow from a large line of credit into XRP and plan to pull profits as it moves up. Do you think last Friday's crash had any lasting impacts on XRP's ETFs, or is that just short-term noise? FUD, my man or lady, not sure which you are since your name is Wetter. But yeah, I don't think that there's going to be any lasting impacts on the approval of the ETFs. There's more than enough liquidity and trading volume on XRP, and the futures market has now been open long enough. We got Jacqueline. She says, hey, Jake, do you have the 6 to 8% interest XRP loan options available yet? And will they be interest-only payments? Thank you for all that you do for us in the Mastermind. Love that you're in the Mastermind. If you think you want to be part of the community, we would love to have you in there. You're just going to go to beyondbroke.com and use the code BeyondBroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO like Mary Oscar gets you the first month for $2 there in the Mastermind, where I share a lot more than I do here publicly. And we give you guys access to all kinds of stuff that you're not going to find anywhere else, including loans against your XRP with our counterparties that hold it at Anchorage. So if you want institutional custody for your assets, it's a great way to do it. And again, we would love to work with you on it. So the 6 to 8%, the current loan rate through the Mastermind or through Digital Wealth Partners is around 13 to 15%. 6 to 8 is coming. It's not live yet. We're expecting that at some point here in Q4, probably late Q4, December. That's what I'm hoping for. But every time I hope for something and I hold my breath, I end up turning purple. So might take a little longer than that. And yeah, I think, that's kind of where we're at with things. Something else on the Mastermind, again, one of the main benefits, there's a lot of benefits, again, loans, access to private deals. We have a health share plan that's kind of like health insurance for people, alongside all the other value there in the Mastermind. We do have Secura, who we've partnered with to be able to get people's assets back. So, I've seen a lot of people asking us about Web3. I'm not involved with Web3. Whatever is out there is a deep fake video. It's nothing I promote. It's not anything associated with us. I'm never going to ask you to send your XRP anywhere. Okay. It's not me. Digital Wealth Partners and Securitize are who we work with to be able to custody your digital assets and provide all the benefits that we do through our SEC registered RIA, which is Digital Wealth Partners. Nowhere in there does it say Web3. So if you're getting anything about that, it's a scam. If I message you on any social media platforms, it's a scam. I don't have time to do it. I wish I did. I wish I could reach out to people and have conversations. I am working all day to make sure that we are continuing to build the best company in the space to be able to provide you with all these services and products that we're releasing on a regular basis at the highest level and setting a standard in the industry for how we do it. So if you want the ability to get your assets back, though, and I can't promise this, it's never a sure thing, but anybody that's carbon 1 and higher inside of the mastermind does have the capability to work with Secura, who is our partner, to be able to recover their assets if somebody steals them, if you are hacked, if you are phished, if you send your assets somewhere that you weren't supposed to and you realize it. You can reach out to them through the portal and you'll be good to go. They'll be able to lock it down with the DOD and the DOJ on whatever exchange it's on and get it back to you. They've recovered over $8 million for many people that we have worked with them. So they've been able to get a lot of people their crypto back that they would have never gotten back if they hadn't been part of the mastermind. So again, if you want access to that, carbon 1 or higher in the mastermind gets that for free. With your membership to the mastermind, we're going to continue to add value any and every way that we can and make sure that people get the access to the best resources in the space. There's a lot of people that are embarrassed or just don't know who to call when something bad happens and their assets are stolen or again hacked or phished. Whatever happens to you, people make mistakes. We get that. We want to make sure that you have some resource to be able to try to recover those assets. So again, if you want to join the mastermind, we would love to have you and provide you with these resources. All you got to do is go to beyondbroke.com and use the code beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you the first month for $2. So if you pay $2, you get into carbon 1, you will have access to the ability to be able to get your XRP or your Bitcoin or ETH or whatever it was that was stolen or you lost back to your wallet through our partners over there at Secura. And again, results aren't guaranteed, but they have recovered about $8 million for people that we've worked with them on. We got ASMR Gone AI says, if skyrocketing XRP is a coordinated event, how do you reckon they will coordinate an oil spike? P.S. You might be the only bodybuilder who golfs. I don't know about that. It's possible, though. There's probably not a whole lot of people that do both those things. I'm actually going to get fitted for a driver tomorrow. I'm going to try to get like a 48-inch shaft. My swing speed's like 130, 135. So carry, right now is like low 300s on a decent drive. I'm going to try to get it up, over 400. If we can, get things fitted where my spin comes down a little bit and ball speed comes up. This person asked, what's the best cold wallet to buy? We like Decent. There should be, links in our bio and in other places. If you want to Google Jake Decent video, we had their co-founder and one of their C-suite staff on a recent video. We went over a lot of the things that they're working on over there at Decent. So, and the code to be able to, and again, we're an affiliate, full transparency, you get like $5 if you buy through our link or whatever. I really don't care. I just really want people to have access to the best cold wallets out there. This person says Arculus. Arculus is cool. EliPal's cool. Tangent's cool. Trezor's cool. There's a lot of good wallets out there. We like Decent the best because of the biometric, the 25th seed phrase, and the breadth of assets that you're able to hold on that device, and the UI is super intuitive. So again, I prefer Decent. If I'm going to use a cold wallet, I like institutional custody better. But if you don't quite have enough to be able to meet those minimums, then that's probably the best choice in my opinion. So back to the oil spike. Yeah, they can absolutely coordinate an oil spike. All they got to do is shut down a large major trade route. Like, it wouldn't be hard. And they could coordinate an excuse to do that pretty easily. Again, there's already conflict in the Middle East. It wouldn't be difficult for them to coordinate something like that. And then that gives them a trigger and they can control when that happens. So I think that's exactly what's going to happen to cause the reverse carry trade to unwind. We got Lawson. What's going on? He says, hey, Jake, do you think ink the reverse carry trade will happen this month. Also, any news on how we are doing with XRP? Are we getting close to significant price appreciation? I had probably no less than 20 people tell me to just not answer any questions about price predictions or price appreciation on XRP on the live tonight. I don't remember what we posted on Twitter, but people were like, any questions about that, just ignore them. I get people are tired of listening to the same thing and the same questions over and over again. Everybody wants it to be tomorrow, Lawson. Believe me. Me too. Okay. And I'm running as hard as I can every single day to make sure that we have everything in position to scale, because I do think it is going to happen in the not too distant future. We've literally hired 8 people this month already. We've got offer letters out to 8 people, advisors and other staff. We're continuing to scale. We'll probably bring on 15 or 20 people before the month's over. So I don't know what that tells you, right? Like, if I'm hiring that aggressively for what we provide, that's all I'm going to give you. If you want to know more, there's a lot more in the mastermind that I'll lay down. But I'm going to move on here and get some of these other super chats in. Appreciate the super chat over there, Lawson. We got a bunch of them here in a row. There he is again. We got the same one, Joaquin. A lot of people talking about sound because I'm special and I can't make the computer work sometimes. We got the Versatile. They say, how's it going? I am blessed, man. Thank you for being here. He says, I thought you had got in trouble for saying saying too much for us on the last stream. I hope everything goes well. Yeah, they didn't shut me out yet. I'm sure, at some point that might be a problem. I try to stay in my lane and not do anything crazy or say anything too crazy. My wife thinks I say some crazy stuff. She told me to take a chill pill and not say so many crazy things. We got Off the Grid Hero says, after the 4-digit XRP, could gold be at 2,100 and silver at 50? Did XRP just hit the bottom, or could it go sub $1 before huge green candles? I don't know what to tell you guys. You had 5 years to buy XRP under $1. I know many people are just now finding this, and you're like, dang it, I'm late to the party. You're not late to the party. You weren't late. People weren't late to the party buying Bitcoin at $3. Okay. People weren't late to the party buying Bitcoin at $50. People weren't even late buying Bitcoin at $4,000, which is when I found Bitcoin and thought it was way overpriced and too expensive, and I should be buying other stuff. And it ended up working out for me, but still would have done pretty good on the Bitcoin 25x or more than that at this point if I had bought the Bitcoin and just held on to that. Right. So, for you to think that you have to buy XRP under $1, I think is a little bit silly, but it is, they were 5 for $1 for a long time, back in 2020 and even in 21. There was a couple times when they were 5 for $1. So, I know a lot of people that picked up a lot of XRP during that period of time. Not that way anymore. You only get 1/3 of that's 250 today or 260, so almost back to $3 on XRP. But yeah, I do not think it's going to go back below $1 anytime soon. And again, would love to be proven wrong, because I will back the truck up if that happens. Bought some the other day on the dip. Hopefully you guys got some on the dip the other day, because I think that may have been the last one we see before a lot of the fun starts to happen here. We got John Zags. He says, XRP plus 750 end of year. We will open 1996 OFC in Dallas. Look forward to seeing you when you come on down. We've got a couple more super chats here. We got Michael. He said, Government shutdown, does that mean, what does that mean for ETFs? Could mean they're delayed, could mean there's no problems. Don't know which it's going to be. We got Owen Smith. He says, Jake, love the content, man. Loaded up Friday. Awesome, dude. See, other people know what it is. You got to buy when there's blood in the streets. When everybody else is scared and running for the hills, and that's when the opportunity is. You make the money on the buy, not on the sell. We got Off the Grid Hero again. He says 5 investments or assets to look at after 4-digit XRP. This is good. You didn't limit me to digital assets, so I appreciate that. Data centers, probably the number one thing I'm the most bullish on post price appreciation for XRP. You're going to have huge amounts of compute and data storage to be able to support a lot of the infrastructure that's going to be required in the new age with AI and blockchain and all the other stuff that's going on. So, if you're able to get access to those types of investments, data centers are billions of dollars to build. But if you can get in on that type of stuff, I think that those will have significant compounded returns over the next decade. There's not enough throughput on data centers. And they're continuing to build them all over the US in certain areas. Google, Amazon, Meta, anybody that is, needing large amounts of compute and data storage, they're building them because they know that they're going to be very lucrative. Beyond data centers, space is another big one. AI, both of those are on the frontier of different things. I want to look at like niche applications for both of those. So one of the things that I think SpaceX is going to do very well, aside from all the satellites and everything that they've done for the data piece there, is the transport of goods. If you are able to move, assets or shipments really from America to Japan in 30 minutes, because that's what rockets will do, and you could take 20 tanker loads on a spaceship from here to there in that time frame, global commerce at scale becomes exponentially faster. And if you are investing in companies that are doing that, now we're talking a lot of money. People will be willing to pay a lot more money for the transport of goods to be much faster. This person keeps typing flare over here. I've had Hugo on the channel. We'll see what ends up happening for flare. I sold all my flare at 29 cents on the way down when it got distributed to me, bought more XRP with it. That's been a really good trade. I'm glad I did that when I did it. Not everybody else was so lucky. There was a lot of people that just staked it and earned, however much money they earned over the period. Pretty sure that Robbie, yes, this is my only account over here on TikTok. Really all my socials. There's a ton of scams out there. Please be aware of the fake Jakes. They're not me. All my accounts are official. I'm gonna try to get the official account on TikTok over here if they'll do it. But back to the other couple investments. So we had data centers, we had space, we had AI in specific applications. And then if you're going to continue to look at blockchain and digital assets, hash, I'm continuing to get more and more bullish on hash post price appreciation for XRP. Talking to a lot of people that see that as a pretty substantial upside as that network gets built out with staking and more applications are built on it. Again, insurance being tokenized on that chain is a big indicator for me. And then, if you wanted one, we've talked about other digital assets, HBAR, XLM, XDC, there's a few others that I think are pretty significant and would have a lot of appreciation on the other side of utility. And then I'm trying to think of another alternative investment that would be good post price appreciation. I think Ripple equity will probably still be very lucrative, even on the other side of price appreciation. And if they were to list publicly, this person says Casper. I like Casper. Casper's actually about to go deflationary. and also they've got pretty good staking rewards on Casper. We've met the co-founder of that network. I've had him on the channel. Bullish on Casper because it's got private and permissioned components to that network. Brian says, silver. Why would you buy silver now? Like, silver was a good buy for the last 5 years. You're now back at all-time high on silver. And if you're buying spot, it's $10 over the price for a physical. I saw silver American silver dollars for $62 each earlier today. I was buying those when I bought my silver for $21 a piece. So that's a 3x on the silver at this point for when I was buying silver. You don't want to buy at all-time high on anything. You want to buy before all-time high. You want to stack things up in dollar cost average when everybody thinks it's lame. I know there's a lot of FOMO onto silver right here. This person says silver has a 45-year cup and handle. It's going to boom. I think maybe $100 on silver. And I'd love to be wrong. There's a lot of people that are going to make a lot of money if I'm wrong. But that's as high as I think it can reasonably go before there's problems with manufacturing and other things. I think that they will short it and cause problems before then. You're seeing a squeeze right now on the COMEX for delivery. There's not enough silver. There's a lot of paper out there. But I don't see how it can go higher than $100. Especially, I think gold's going to fall back to 2,100 at $100 per silver ounce and at $2,000 per gold ounce. That's 20-1 on the gold to silver ratio. Historically, it's 40-1. Right now, we're at 80-1 because gold's at 4,000 and silver's at 50. So it is still technically undervalued in comparison to the long-term trend for the gold to silver ratio. And I do think there's going to be a rotation, as we do always see, from gold into silver. But again, I think a 20-1 is probably realistic, and that's a $2,000 gold. On the other side of the reverse carry trade, maybe $100 silver. And again, would love to be wrong and people to make a lot more money, and me, I'll just stick with my XRP. We got Rise. They say, Jake, howdy from Alberta. Oh, Canada. Does your company work with Canadians? We sure do. If not, is there any way anyone up here that you know or would recommend? Thanks for all that you do. God bless. This is going to sound egotistical, but there's literally nobody else in the world that does what we do. We are it. We are attracting advisors that have been at legacy firms that are leaving $100 million books of business to come over here and work with us because of how progressive we are and what we're doing in the industry. There is literally no other firm in the world doing what we're doing when it comes to digital assets. So the answer is no. Unfortunately, there's nobody in Canada that does what we do, but we would love to work with you. All you have to do is have enough to be able to work with us, meet the minimums that we have. So that's either 100,000 XRP or at least $500,000 in total portfolio value. That can include traditional assets along with your crypto. So, and the other qualification or minimum that we have to have is that your assets are held by an entity. Canadians can set up a corporation there in Canada or a trust there in Canada if you plan to stay there. If you plan to leave Canada, we've got a lot of other tax beneficial regions that we can set you up in. And if you plan to move to the US, we can set you up here in the US. But if you do plan to stay there in Canada, you probably want to set up a corporation in Canada. Setting up an LLC here in the US is no bueno. Canada does not recognize LLC, the limited liability company here in the US, as a pass-through entity. You end up getting taxed twice, once at the corporate level here, and then once again when you take that money home to your pocket there in Canada. So setting things up in Canada, there are some benefits there for taxes. And then also, again, offshore is probably going to be your best bet if you're a Canadian. And you would move because it's residency based on the taxes there in Canada. We got Snagglefoot. It's an interesting name. I had an $18,000 hack on Coinbase. Any recommendations on how to pursue? Coinbase said, too bad. You could try Secura again if you're in the mastermind and work with us. If you're in Carbon One, you can absolutely reach out to Secura. The sooner you reach out to them, the more likely it is that you're going to be able to recover those assets. If you wait a long time, it's likely that they've offloaded them somewhere and liquidated it and taken the money. But if you get it within, 2 to 5, sometimes up to 24 hours, 2 to 5 hours, 24 hours, sometime in the first 24 hours, you're much more likely to get the assets back than if you're waiting longer than that. Right time, says Jake, if the reverse carry trade unwinds into a full-blown XRP supply shock, hitting that legendary 589, would you finally reveal if Bearable Guy 123 was your secret alias all along? Or is that the domino still standing? I'm definitely not Bearable Guy. No, I'm not. I'd like to meet. I may have already met Bearable Guy. But yeah, I do think all that's going to play out. I just think it's going to go a little bit higher than 589. We got Cotton Clarksa. They say, thank you, Jake, for guiding me to the cold wallet this summer. Awesome. Got a Tangent card. Very cool. I run it simple, just XRP. So it's perfect for me. So glad to be off of Robinhood. Muchas gracias from the Alamo City. The Alamo's cool. Remember the Alamo. If you're in Texas, you know all about the Alamo because of Texas history. So that's just part of classes here. Super cool to see that you got your assets off of Robinhood. A lot of people have been having a lot of problems getting their stuff off of Robinhood. This person says, how much XRP do I need to move to DAG? Our minimum is 100,000 XRP, which we're working on some solutions for other people. So just be patient with that. Happy to report that should be sometime in the near future that we're able to accommodate others that may not quite meet that minimum. But for now, for today, it is 100,000 XRP, or at least $500,000 in total portfolio value. And you do need your assets held by an entity or a trust or an IRA. We can absolutely work with IRAs, and we're working on a solution to be able to compound your assets inside of your IRA tax-free or tax-deferred. We got Brian. He says, legend. What's up, my man? Join the mastermind. That's what's up, dude. Thanks for all that you do for us. I have Wyoming LLC already. Looking to join your network for advice and guidance. Awesome, dude. So glad to have you there in the network and in the mastermind. We have almost 8,000 members there in the mastermind, which is just blows me away. We have another event here in San Francisco in just 13 days. Close to 250 people registered for that event right now. In real life event, we do more in real life events than any other group in crypto. More than one a quarter. He says, what is the mastermind? The mastermind is a group of people that are like-minded, that come together to be able to support each other in their endeavors. Everybody in there has an interest in crypto, specifically XRP most of the time. We work with each other to support each other, depending on what you're going through, provide expertise. A lot of people just have different things that they've gone through in their life, or they might be further along in something than you are, and they can help you, right? And if you provide value and they provide value, and you kind of have community to be able to support you, you're not lonely on an island out there talking to, crazy people. People think you're crazy if you're in crypto. So I think that's a lot of the appeal that we do have, to people, is you're able to find people in your neck of the woods that understand what you see, right? You don't sound so crazy. So if that sounds cool to you, again, we would love to have you there in the group, in the mastermind. You can go to beyondbroke.com and just use the code beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, And then MO, also capitalized, gives you the first month for $2. They're in Social or Carbon One, and you can attend the Mastermind event there in California that we're going to have on the 26th. We've got Alman. He says, "Hey Jake, happy Monday." Happy Monday, sir. Even if your price prediction happens to be wrong, I still have learned so much from you, and you are a good and honest person. Thank you. I appreciate that. I do this because I want people to have access to information and be educated and start to question things. And if you don't believe that, becoming wealthy is possible, then you're not even going to research any of this stuff, right? Like, you're not going to figure out how to mitigate taxes. You're not going to figure out how to, structure your estate or aspire to do these things because you believe you're going to come into a large amount of wealth. You're going to have a lot better time when this happens, because it's going to. Understanding all this stuff now versus being caught off guard or being on your back foot on the other side of price appreciation. If you're caught on your back foot, then you're probably going to make some poor choices. You might be emotional. You're not going to have the understanding to talk to the advisors and other people that are going to approach you or you might reach out to. And if you're in a position where you don't know what they're saying or certain words are foreign to you, people will pull the wool over your eyes and take advantage of you. And again, you guys don't even have to work with us. We've tried to make it easy and set everything up at Digital Ascension Group and partner with the best professionals in the US and globally to be able to help you structure things the right way. But you might find good advisors. We have people reach out to us and send us good people to work with. So there are other good people out there. They're just not as prominent or well known. And if you can find them now before price appreciation, I would highly encourage you to start doing that. Educate yourself, understand, what the tools and benefits are of some of these products and services that we're talking about. PPLI, charitable remainder trust, foundations, DAFs or donor advised funds, whole life insurance, infinite banking. The list goes on and on and on. And if you can figure out how to structure yourself the right way and mitigate taxes. Taxes are going to be your biggest expense, period, bar none. All your life, taxes are the largest expense. So if you can figure out how to mitigate those and borrow against your assets instead of selling them, you're going to be much further along. And again, these are all just things I want people to start to contemplate and learn about, because this price appreciation is going to happen. And if you're in a position where you have made a bunch of money, you should only have to get wealthy once. You don't want to lose it all because you just were uneducated and got lucky, right? I don't want people to be lucky. I want them to make their own luck. We got Tom41. He says, "Hey, Jake, never was worried about being invested into the growth fund until Friday. I'm not looking for exact numbers, but how did we hold up? Love the mastermind and having institutional custody. Thank you." No problems whatsoever. Everything operated exactly the way that it's supposed to. The growth fund did lose a little bit of money on the Friday, but they've already, put out long positions and they're already getting some of that back. The income fund actually made money on Friday with all the volatility. So, again, everything performed exactly like it's supposed to, mitigating downside risk, capturing the benefit and the upside on things or whatever the trend is. Really excited about our partners and what we've been able to create over there at Digital Wealth Partners for people to get access to be able to put their XRP to work without any of the counterparty risk or risk of loss. The only risk of loss is that the strategy performs or underperforms for a quarter. And if they do lose money over the quarter, we do have to liquidate a portion of assets to be able to cover those losses. That's only happened twice, 2 quarters out of 5 years for both of the funds. So there is a chance, there is a risk. I'm not saying it's risk-free, but they have produced anywhere between 20 and 50% per year over the last 5 years for both of those funds. We don't get all of that. We're only getting 80% margin against the XRP, and we're only ever trading 50 or 60% of that exactly for the reason of what happened on Friday. They're not going to call the capital away. There's no issues. There was no losses. We're good to go. And we're still able to capture, somewhere between if everything goes the same way, somewhere between 6 and 20% per year. This person says, do you have a safe Web3 connection established? That's a scam. Anybody telling you about Web3 or Flare airdrop or quantum financial system, any of those things are red flags. Please, whoever this Annie lady is needs to get banned out of my channel over here because that's a scam. And again, if you want to be able to recover your assets, if God forbid you send them to the wrong place or something bad happens, you can do what Liners is pointing out here, and you can join the Mastermind. And the Carbon One gets you access to Secure to be able to get those assets back. You know exactly who to call if something bad happens. And again, that's the code there is Beyond Broke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO over there at beyondbroke.com. We've got Be Inspired 2021. I love the name. They say, hey, Jake, in Australia, what is the best way to transfer crypto from personal ownership to trust without sending to an exchange as Dodgers by TOC? Not sure what that last part means. I would assume you'd be able to do it the same way that we do it here in the US, which is you move it to a cold wallet, and then you contribute the cold wallet along with the wallets that are on it into the trust. Now, downside in Australia when you move stuff into a family trust there is that you are going to pay the taxes. Whatever, gains or anything you have on it, you're going to owe the taxes to transfer it into the trust on the front end. So the lower the price of your assets when you do that, the better off you're going to be, just because it's going to be less taxes you have to pay. But they are able to then be protected and grow inside the trust there in Australia. The other thing you can do is get them offshore. That's a little more complicated. It costs a little bit more money. We have many contacts in Dubai to be able to help people if you want to move to Dubai or get your assets over to Dubai. If you're in Australia, we also have British Virgin Islands. We've got the Cook Islands. We have some other jurisdictions that I've seen a few people from Australia want to move to or work with for their digital assets. But we do have 2 groups there in Australia that can help you set up the family trust or the self-managed super fund. You can work with Tax on Chain, or the other one is Consensus Layer. And if you want the contacts at either one of those, all you got to do is email us at info@digitalfamilyoffice.io, and we'll get you the contacts at both those companies so you can work with them. We got G's Good Life. He says, I sold off some stocks and I bought the semi-dip OTC via Digital Wealth Partners with Tim. Hell yeah, dude. Tim has been great to work with. See, I love that. Thank you for the flowers. I'll pass those on to Tim and the team over there. I think that you're going to be very happy with that trade. Not financial advice. That's probably a good time for my disclaimer because I do have to throw it in here. Everything here is for entertainment and educational purposes only. It's not financial advice. If you need financial advice or tax advice or legal advice, you should always work with a financial advisor, a CPA, or an attorney that is barred to provide that advice to you. I am not a financial advisor. I do not have any certifications or credentials to be able to provide that type of advisory to you, and I'm not compensated for that. But if you need those people, we would love to work with you at Digital Ascension Group through digitalfamilyoffice.io to be able to provide you with all those professionals that are licensed and certified to be able to provide that information. And then last but not least, any opinions that I state are my own opinions. They are not the opinions of the firm, Digital Ascension Group, Digital Family Office, or Digital Wealth Partners. I have my own opinions and operate my own portfolio independent of the firm. When I say that, they do provide me some advisory because I do have my assets over at Anchorage. But aside from that, I pretty much tell them what to do, and you can too, right? Like that's the beautiful benefit of working with us, is we provide you benefits and advisory on things, but at the end of the day, it's what the client says is what happens. So if that sounds cool to you, if you want to maintain the control of your assets and have institutional custody get your wife or your spouse on the account, kiddos or your beneficiaries on there, and they don't have to know anything about crypto. You want to make sure that they're taken care of. If God forbid something happened to you, you definitely should be working with Digital Wealth Partners to be able to set up a FBO account at Anchorage, which is for the benefit of that's segregated, bankruptcy remote, and insured to be able to protect your assets for your family and your legacy. So if that sounds cool to you, again, you can go to digitalwealthpartners.net and go to the contact us page. And if you got over $100,000, 100,000 XRP or $500,000 in crypto, we would love to work with you. And again, we're working on a way to bring those minimums down. We got Lake. They say, hey, Jake, I had a margin call from Arch Lending and was a bit freaked out, but I must tell you, the team was awesome. I was getting direct emails from Freddie to help me calm down. It was a great experience. See, I love to hear that. Thank you so much for the feedback. We have Arch Lending is one of our partners that provides the ability to borrow against your XRP. And again, if you were using a smart contract, you would have just been liquidated. Would have been game over. They would have taken your assets. But because we have great partners, tri-party agreements with the different lenders that we work with, we're able to get you access to liquidity without all the same risks that are associated with smart contracts. And they are very helpful. They don't want to take your assets. They want to be able to make the interest off of stuff and for people to be happy and want to continue to work with them. That's their whole MO. Like, that's their game. So we did have a lot of people. We had 80 people with margin calls over the weekend, and none of them had XRP liquidated or any of the other assets that we have loans against. We have another 9 million in Bitcoin that people have worked with us to get liquidity on, and none of that was liquidated either. So really excited about our partnerships. And again, those are the benefits that we provide at Digital Wealth Partners that you're not going to get anywhere else, is that personal touch and making sure that you have options when things don't go the way you had them planned. Honest Aim says, Jake, Mr. Legacy, what's up, my man? It was good to see you in the office today. Thank you so much for the gift, by the way. My wife loved it. Really glad to have you guys as members of the Mastermind and good friends. So thank you for all the support. He says, thank you for all that you do for the little guys. Wanted to add our thanks to you. Building products like Arch Lending saved my XRP and my butt. Thanks. Can't say thanks enough. Hi to the tea lady. Yeah. Love you guys. Appreciate y'all. And I am so blessed and grateful for all the partnerships that we've been able to curate for the community and everybody that's part of the XRP family. So many good people that we're working with, and everybody's excited to build all the stuff that we are. So anyway, thank you for all the support and everything that you guys do for us. And like I said, it was really good seeing you today, even though we didn't get to talk much. We've got L. They say, what are the first signs of the reverse carry trade that you'll be watching for? Is everything likely to drop before assets like XRP and commodities come back? It will affect all markets. All markets will fall. It's tens of trillions of dollars of liquidity that'll be sucked out of markets. Hold, sold, liquidated, which will cause significant downward pressure across all markets. It won't matter where your money is. There'll be a complete price reset of markets globally when that money is pulled out and paid back. And XRP will be part of that reset that people have been, the great reset, if you want to call it that. The signs that I'm looking for, oil. Like, I don't know how to beat the dead horse anymore that I've been beating it. But when you see oil spike, and it doesn't have to be in dollars. We're already, opening up new parts of Alaska for drilling here in the U.S. to be able to be independent on our energy production. And I really don't care if oil spikes here in the U.S. I only care if oil spikes in Japan versus the yen. So it could be a different trade route. It could be a bunch of different things. As long as Japan is affected directly or indirectly by some catalyst with oil, you can bet your biscuits that's exactly when things are going to play out, and we're going to see the domino theory roll. And I don't think it's that much further. We got VGTV. Thank you for the super chat. They say, "Hey Jake, just got the LLC set up. Awesome. Looking forward to working with you and your team." 2 questions. Number 1, what do you think about PAX Gold, I'm assuming, as a hedge or store of value, short to midterm, 1 to 3 years? And how are you so confident about decent with closed code source? I would rather it be that way. If it's open, then there's going to be people that find it and expose and like hack it. They've never had any issues. We talk to their team regularly. They've always been transparent with us and open. They're always working on new products. I know they're from South Korea, but like that's also a huge region for XRP. And that's another one of the reasons we kind of resonate with that team and that product. So again, super confident on decent. When it comes to PAX G or PAX Gold in the next 1 to 3 years, I like gold as a store of value. That's what it's for. It's not. So if that's what you're using it for, you said a hedge or store of value, perfect. If you want to maintain your purchasing power of whatever dollars you put into it today, for sure, 100%. Gold's not going anywhere. It will continue to be a hedge against inflation and a store of value. Okay. Now, if you're looking for it to outperform the market or make a bunch of gains, it's not going to do that. Homes are still going to cost the same amount of gold as they always have. And gold is actually a little bit overpriced right now in comparison to other assets. It's overpriced in comparison to the stock market. It's overpriced in comparison to real estate. So I think, again, I think gold's coming back to around $2,000 or $2,100 per ounce on the other side of the reverse carry trade. Now, does it get repriced or pegged to oil at a certain price point? Possibly. I think a $5,000 gold could make sense. That's fine. I could live with that. People that are telling you $10,000, $20,000, $25,000 per ounce, the only way that's happening is we're in Mad Max. Okay, like the US dollar has collapsed and we are screwed if gold is that price. They're not going to reprice it that high. They're going to use XRP, they're going to use gold, and they're going to use oil to back the new financial system. And that's why I'm so confident that we're going to see XRP as a tier 1 asset and premium collateral on the other side of price appreciation. If you didn't have XRP, you could absolutely see a $25,000 gold. I mean, Jim Rickards has done the math on that for sure. He doesn't take into account oil, and he doesn't take into account XRP to be able to reprice things. I don't know if crypto jiggy is a scam or not, but again, anything with Web3 is a scam. Please stay away from it. Please block anybody talking about that. We've got John Jags 28 again says, John and Rob want to know, with a little less than 60 billion out there, how do we see appreciation with 40 billion not yet in circulation? Who has that 40 billion? It's locked up in a time released escrow that Ripple has, and it's actually a bit more than 40 billion. I think it's like 47 billion at this point. I think 53 billion are available in the total supply. It might be a little more than that. I could be off. The numbers that you said, though, are also a little bit off. There's more than that locked up. So $1 billion per month are released onto the market via the time lock escrow. Ripple then distributes however much they need to onto the open market. And when I say distributes, I mean sell to fund their business. I don't make any bones about that. A lot of people, poo-poo on that. If your job was to build out the infrastructure for the network and get adoption, and it benefited you to have the token price go up, you would use the token to fund that business development. I'm not mad about it. They normally don't sell the full billion either. They normally, this year it's been about 300 million per month that they put out onto the market, and they've re-escrowed about 700 million out of each one of those billion XRP releases. So, you know, again, they could liquidate up to $1 billion onto the market per month. It's the first of the month when that comes out. They could also do none of it. They could also just re-escrow the whole thing if they wanted to cause a supply shock. So anyway, you know, with the amount that's out there, let's do a little math here and think about how much value is transferred globally. You got 5 trillion a day for Swift. You got about $5 or $6 trillion a day on the back end of the stock market. You got another $5 or $6 trillion a day in FX markets. That doesn't count commodities. That doesn't count real estate. That doesn't count insurance. It doesn't count derivatives. And then all of the other economic activity for value transfer. So we'll just call it roughly, derivatives and everything, $100 trillion a day that needs to be settled. You need a lot of a token out there in circulation to be able to, even at a decently high price, to be able to settle all of that money and value between counterparties. So the people out there that are telling you there's, you know, too much in supply and it's never going to be a high price, they don't understand the actual value transfer globally on a daily basis and the volume that was going to be moving over that network and needs to be settled on the back end. So just, you know, again, you can do the math on that. It'd be like a 5-digit XRP, which just happens to be what it's built to be to settle all of that value. You know, it's been stated by David Schwartz and Arthur Brito and many other people that helped develop and build the XRP ledger. XRP is meant to operate at $10,000 plus. If it is going to be the global backbone for settlement, which again, I'm extremely confident that that is where it ends up. We got KK Pond. What's up, man? He says, how are you doing? Not financial advice, but when will you buy good again? Not sure what good is. Maybe you meant hash. I don't know. I just threw a couple $1,000 at hash when it was 2 cents. I think it's 4 cents now. There's not enough liquidity to be able to trade it or do much with it. Figure markets really is kind of illiquid. It takes a while to even execute a buy order on parallel markets or Osmosis, which are the only 2 platforms you can buy it on. So I don't know. Again, I think that I think you get a $10 hash in the next 3 to 5 years. I think that's completely reasonable. If it was still at a penny when I was close, I bought it at almost 2 cents. So what's 500x? Yeah, I'd take that. Hunter says, hey, Jake, shook your hand in Dallas, part of the Mastermind. Awesome, dude. It was good to see you at the event. My aunt is watching for the first time. Can you give the 30,000-foot view of XRP Ripple, its known ties, and where we are by 2030? Thanks, bro. Oh, man. Hi, Auntie. Good to see you. I'll say I'm sure you probably use a payment app. PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, those things. You've just seen the other day Venmo announced that this is going to be interoperable with PayPal. So if I have PayPal and you have Venmo, I'll be able to send you money and vice versa. That's the first time that's happened. Very similar to when the internet came out, like to send you an email, if you had AOL, I had to have AOL. And then they came out with the email protocol. And now it doesn't matter what email you have. Everybody's able to send everybody an email. That's exactly what's going to happen with these payment apps and all of the other siloed parties that send transactions globally. So they'll all be able to settle value real time. The other thing that you get on a payment app is when somebody sends you money, you get 2 options. You can send it to your bank account for free and it'll take 2 or 3 days, or you can have it instantly for a fee and they pre-fund the account. When they move over to blockchain, it'll be instant for free. So that's the benefit there, is they're able to move a lot more volume. And even if they just reduce the fee like down to $1, the margins that they're making are going to be exponentially greater, and everybody's going to do it because it's faster and cheaper than it was before, right? And the volume of payments will pick up. Like imagine, you may have been around for traditional mail when that was the big thing before email. If you were really getting it back in the day, you're probably sending like 10 or 15 letters a week, maybe 20. How many emails do you get a day? Hundreds. So that's how payments are going to work too. When they remove that friction and the latency, people are going to be sending a lot more money, smaller amounts of money, but a lot more. And if they're charging $1 with 90% margins on each one of those transactions instead of, 15 bucks or 20 bucks or whatever it is now to be able to settle that money real time, a lot of people are like, I'll just wait, the volume is actually going to make up for the difference, and they're going to make much greater margins because it won't cost them as much to be able to actually do what they're doing now. So that's really the use case for XRP. It's a global decentralized ledger that everybody will use and settle value through XRP. And for that to happen, XRP's got to be a very high price to be able to provide liquidity for all of those transactions. Ripple is a company that develops products and solutions on the XRPL, so it's not really XRP. XRP is not a security of Ripple. It's not equity in Ripple. It's completely separate. It's a company that uses the technology. So, similar to the internet protocol, Oracle, right? They developed solutions for businesses and business applications bespoke to their use case and their infrastructure using the internet protocol. They had private permissioned ecosystems that are interoperable with the global internet. Ripple does the same thing for banks. They provide bespoke banking infrastructure and payment solutions, along with stablecoin and a large breadth of other products that payment providers, institutions, and enterprises can use to be interoperable with other people and settle value or exchange value with them. Ripple has ties with 1,100 different large financial institutions globally. They've been around for 13 years at this point. They have connections globally with every single central bank that you can think of, many of which have been disclosed. You've had many people come from the private sector or the public sector, go to work at Ripple, and then move into other strategic locations or vocations to be able to understand what's going on there and how to integrate that technology. You had Robbie Mitchnick that moved from Ripple and then worked at BlackRock. Rosie Rios, who was the previous treasurer of the U.S. Treasury. Her name's on $1.7 trillion globally, like written out, signed, Rosie Rios. There's just been so many strategic people that have come and gone from that company and understand what the technology is and then moved into the position they need to be in now. It's pretty apparent for anybody paying attention what's actually going on. We're actually going to be at Swell this year in November up there in New York. We'll get to see BlackRock speak. We'll get to see BNY speak. We'll get to see Ripple speak, and all the other large financial institutions that are going to be there up on stage talking about how they're using this technology and how they're going to implement it in their business. So I don't know how much more I can give you that's compelling to help you understand what this is and why it would be valuable. But hopefully that's a good enough 30,000-foot view and a differentiation between Ripple, XRP, and the benefit of all of this, that's going to go on. He said by 2030. So over the next 5 years, we are going to see a huge move toward tokenization. The average person is not even going to know what's going on. They're not going to care. Again, kind of like email, you're just going to wake up one day and be like, oh, I can send money over here and I don't have to think about it. I can send from Cash App to PayPal or PayPal to Venmo or Venmo to, Wise, whatever payment app you want to use. It won't matter. You'll have digital identity. I need this right now. It'd be great. And then I couldn't be impersonated across all of these platforms and people couldn't be scamming other people using my name, there's going to be, just less frictions in transactions. Instead of taking a home, 30, 60, 90 days to be able to do the mortgage and, actually make a transaction happen, it could happen in as little as 3 days for everything to take place. So the velocity of money and how much faster things will get done once we move over to blockchain and that infrastructure to be able to settle value and smart contracts, is going to completely revolutionize commerce globally. All right, we've got Curter X7. They say, hey, like the hay my horses eat. Jake, saw your video on Kingdom Exploration LLC's channel on YouTube that talked about oil prices being faked. He said it's supposed to be close to 120 a barrel, which would be enough for the reverse carry trade. He's on point. I agree with him. I don't know that channel, but that's interesting that somebody else is seeing what I'm seeing and talking about it and has referenced me in the situation. We got about, we'll call it 30 minutes left here, and then we're going to wrap it up tonight. We're going to try to get through the rest of the super chats on the lightning round. We got Frank. He says, no question tonight. Just want to say thank you for being here for all of us and being a leader to turn to when things are tough. Thank you. Absolutely, man. Look, there's going to be days when you are worried about things or things don't work out or go your way. And if I can be a light in those moments for people, even if it's just one person, then it makes all the difference for me. That's what I'm here to do. There's a lot of people that don't like me. That's fine. I don't care. I resonate with the people that I'm meant to resonate with, and the people that I want to work with tend to like me. It works out good that way. And the people that I don't resonate with don't tend to like me. So I don't try to be polarizing, but I guess I am. And again, it's all worth it if I'm able to help just one person. I get messages from people every single day that just light up my world, and I get a lot of fulfillment from doing this. So I do it for free. I get on here twice a week, talk to you guys, answer questions, try to provide value, and I do promote my businesses, right? Again, just try to be transparent about stuff. I wouldn't do that if I didn't think they didn't provide value, though, and I've built them in a way where I always want the client or anybody I'm working with, really, I try to position they have to win for me to win. I don't like zero-sum games where one person wins and one person loses. I always try to align interests and make sure we're charging a fair price and providing exceptional service. And sometimes we don't always make the mark, but we do our best, and we're always working to be better, So I come on here and talk about what we're doing because I'm excited about it, and hopefully it gets you guys excited about it too. We got Snagglefoot again. He says, my crypto is on a cold wallet, Trezor, Safe 5, and Ledger Flex. They want to update. Scared to do it since I've been hacked already on Coinbase. Advice. Probably fine on the Trezor and the Safe 5. And I won't talk about the other one. Let's see here. We got Christian Perez. What's going on, brother? He says, Jake, the big bicep break. I pray numbers 624 through 26 for you. We've talked about getting tokens off the exchange, but we haven't discussed what to do when the exchange is blocking you from buying or selling. You could still move them off there. Hopefully you can move your assets off there. I would recommend doing it if you haven't already. If they aren't allowing you to buy or sell, go somewhere else. Bush Guy 11 says, hey man, I'm looking for a place to move my XRP so in the future I can borrow against it. you can do that with Digital Wealth Partners. We can provide that for you at Anchorage, who is our custodian. But if you want access to that right now, you can just join the Mastermind. We have the ability to be able to borrow against your XRP. We're pretty much the only people that provide that anywhere in a safe way. There's other people, again, where you can use smart contracts where you're going to get liquidated. This person, Annie, again, with the scams, she says, move them all to decentralized wallet for a safe place. Whatever decentralized wallet is, or Web3 wallet, or any of this other stuff, it's a scam. Please don't listen to any of these people. So anyway, I would get it off the exchange. I would get it over somewhere. And if you want to borrow against your XRP, you should join the Mastermind. You can go to beyondbroke.com and use the code BeyondBroke, all capitalized, #1, and then MO gets you the first month for $2 there in Carbon One, where you'd be able to borrow against the XRP. David says, Jake, do you have to pay $300 consult to set up the LLC? I'm ready. Also think we should get an LLC and trust at the same time. You don't have to pay the $300 to set up the LLC. You just use the code 50 off 50 OFFDAG LLC. That's 50 off 50 OFFDAG, like Digital Ascension Group LLC. Get you everything for $2,000 end to end. And again, you don't need to set up the consult and pay an extra $300 to do that. You can, if you want to talk to one of our advisors and work through some of the other stuff. Setting up a trust could make sense, and happy to connect you with our team to be able to do that. We'll do an asset protection trust for around 15 grand. They're in Wyoming, and that comes, separate of the LLC. It's just the trust for 15. A living trust is going to be less than that. We're changing some things on that right now. You would really want to talk to an attorney before you set up a trust, and you would definitely want to work with an attorney to set up the trust. You don't want to do that willy-nilly on your own. So again, if you want those contacts, if you want those resources, you just go to, you can email us at info@digitalfamilyoffice.io, and they can help you work through those things. We got Chemo. They say, respect, legend, Sir Jay from the Caribbean. I love what you preach. Brethren, continue the good work. Do you believe in your bet XRP could hit over $500 by the end of 2025? Where do you see HBAR and XLM by 2030? Yeah, I wouldn't have made that bet if I didn't think it was possible. It does have to be the perfect storm. Like, I just want to be transparent with people. Like, everything has to line up perfectly for that to happen this year. It's not without cause. There are a lot of catalysts and many things that have to unfold. I'm really, really confident in 50 or to $100. For it to go to thousands of dollars, there's got to be some additional things that unfold. The main point of that bet was to make sure that the people that had really the XRP had been taken from, the individual that I bet had taken, close to 2,500 XRP from other people. And whether I win or lose that bet, those people get paid back. And that's really what I care about. Not everybody is in the same position. Many people don't have the XRP to lose. And I just want to make sure that those people get made whole. I've been really blessed in my life, and I'm okay if I, lose 4,500 XRP on a bet. Maybe those other people aren't, though, right? If they lost 100 or 200 or 500 XRP, that could be a lot of money for them in the future. And I would rather lose that bet and make sure they got made whole than me not make the bet and them get taken and not ever get that XRP back. So on the other two that you asked about, HBAR and XLM by 2030, XLM to $1,000, I think, is going to be about that time frame. Somewhere, 900 plus is kind of my expectation. HBAR probably a similar range to that also. We'll have very, mature blockchains that have 80 to 85% of all the global assets tokenized at that point by the end of 2030. And so I think both of those will be close to 4 digits by that point. We got Anthony C, and then I'm going to grab some of the other super chats that Mr. Legacy has sent me. He says, hey, Jake, Carbon One member here. That's awesome, dude. Glad to have you in the mastermind. He said, thank you and Max and the mastermind moderators for what you do for us. Oh, by the way, do you have a futurist pass lying around for me? Unfortunately, we did give away all the free tickets that we had over there to Futurist, but you can get, there's a discount code for tickets there for mastermind members. We will be in Florida, in Miami at Futurist and speaking. I believe it is the 6th of November. We got John. Thank you so much, Mr. Shook, for the super chat. Again, you do not have to send that much money. Thank you so much. He says, strategy question. Do I start to pay AUM fees once in custody? Yes, you do. We start to bill you. And if so, should I wait until okay, the next income fund starts? Mastermind member Carbon 2 has helped me so much. I must join for all. Stayed calm Friday and bought a ton. Awesome, dude. Thank you and the crew for everything. Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for being part of Carbon 2. It's the people in the mastermind that make it special. Like, without you guys, without good people, it's not anything, right? Like, it's just me running my mouth, just trying to share some cool information. But without great people there, it's not anywhere close to the value that it is today. So thank you for being part of it. We do charge fees. So just transparently, again, on the products and stuff, I don't like to BS anybody. I want people to have all the information before they're able to make decisions in full context. So we do charge, less than $5 million in total assets with us. It's 2% per year. It's prorated per month. It ends up being like almost 17 basis points, or 17% of 1% is what we charge per month on the total amount that you have with us. So let's say you had, again, $500,000 with us. 1% would be $5,000. It'd be $10,000 for the year is what we would charge you, but that would again be broken out over the monthly rate. So if it was $12,000 a year, it'd be $1,000 a month. It's going to be like 780 something bucks a month would be my guess. Well, you know what? I have the handy dandy calculator. I'm going to break it down for you guys since my wife was nice enough to get that for me. So we're going to call it $10,000 divided by 12. That's going to bring you to $833 per month. We don't want you to have to sell off assets. We want to be able to provide value and make money on your money to cover all of our costs, right? Like, that's the whole point. So the funds do pay out. Again, we're going to have another payout for Q2, the second quarter that we've run. The funds here for our clients, and again, it is in the black. You guys made money, and that will come out to you guys here this week once they finalize the numbers. And then we'll have a webinar, I think Monday next week was what I was told today. So you could wait, until you can get in the fund. We are going to have a yield product that is going to pay monthly in the very near future, like very, very near future. So, I would suggest getting in sooner than later, but if you want to, delay moving your assets on, we can give you like 30 days from the time that you sign on. And if we are closing this out right now, I don't know if they're going to let you in or not, but we did have an offer for 75 basis points for anybody that had at least $900,000 in digital assets, or at least 300,000 XRP. We saw, probably, 50 or 60 new clients come on for that. But mostly the benefit was for people that are already with us. We had like 175 clients that were able to take advantage of that drop in their AUM fees. Some of them moved more assets on. A lot of people are just holding the minimum with us, like, Shook talked about, until we get, income coming in to be able to cover all the costs that we are charging, right? I don't like charging people any more than anybody else. We are a business. We have to make money. We're barely in the black. I believe in the long-term success of this deal. I've dumped millions of dollars of my own capital into the businesses over the last 2 years to be able to get it to this point. And again, just want to say thank you to all the people that have supported us during that time and continue to work with us while we're building all this stuff out. Again, none of this is possible without our fantastic clients and all the people over there in the mastermind and everybody else that's willing to work with us and build these things for the XRP family. We went over that one. We got Jay Garcia. Thank you for the super chat, my man. He says, Jake, oh, I felt loud. I need you, brother. Dave from Digital Outlook tried to introduce us through email, but I haven't been able to get a hold of you. I need help on what to do with my portfolio. I mean, if you emailed me, we should have got a consult. I'm sure that my assistant would have emailed you back. But if you want to email me one more time, you should have my email if Dave made the introduction. And I apologize if we've missed that. And I will definitely find a time with you. And again, I really do appreciate the super chat. And I'm sorry if we dropped the ball on our side. We got the Godfather. He says, no, just announced no unrealized capital gains in Australia on your super. Awesome. That is fantastic news. Cheers to that, my man. Very cool. Glad to see that that's not going to happen for people on their self-managed super fund over there in Australia. I was really worried about that because there was a lot of people that were super concerned they're going to end up with 30% unrealized capital gains tax on their crypto inside their self-managed super fund. And you'd have to liquidate 30% just to cover the taxes, which would have been stupid. So shout out to the Australian government and whatever parliament put that together to make sure that that didn't happen. And again, super excited for all of our Australian clients that do have self-managed super funds with us over there at Digital Wealth Partners. This person says, when we buy a golf course. That's on my bucket list. Trump did it. I kind of want to do that. I like golf. I've played, with Scotty Scheffler and Jordan Spieth in high school here in Texas. So that'd be cool. I'd like to own a golf course at some point. We've got this gentleman says, hey, Jake, I have Ripple shares on Link2. Should I consider them gone? No, I don't think so. I think that's actually going to work out in your favor with the liquidating trust. I think that's really their only path forward with everything that they violated with securities laws. And we'll just have to see how everything plays out. It's going to take a long time. It's going to be a while before you get your stuff back over there. We're continuing to scroll through. We've got another 15 minutes here, and then we're going to shut it down tonight. I'm going to go to the bottom and work my way back up. So just don't do any more super chats over here. Just so you know, I'm going to miss them if you do another one. We got Connor. He says, if crypto goes tax-free, would it be free for our current existing assets? If crypto goes tax-free, would it be free for our current existing assets? Well, okay. There's probably some nuance here, so I'm going to talk to this. It'll probably be specific cryptos that are tax-free. I think it's a very high likelihood that HBAR, XLM, XRP, anything that has stable coins issued on it, Ethereum, Matic, Tron, anything that settles stable coins or has a DEX or moves value between counterparties for settlement, I think makes a lot of sense to move to no cap gains. And I don't know if they'll put a qualifier on that you have to be using it for that application, or if they will just be no cap gains in general. If it's no cap gains in general on those specific assets, again, because I think there'll be those because they're settling value, the only reason that they would allow that to apply to everybody would be that you can't buy them anymore. They're not available for sale. And I talked about this in a recent video that I put out on my YouTube channel, where I said, you may never be able to buy crypto again. And once the institutions are here and we have utility on a lot of these assets, I'm extremely confident that the liquidity on the exchanges and for what retail is able to purchase will be gone. It'll only be OTC, dark pools, backroom deals, brokers, people that have access to retail and other people that are willing to sell it. That's going to be the only way that it'll be private transactions. There's not going to be a way for retail to be able to participate easily. And if it is, you're not going to be able to buy much of it. Most of it's going to be through structured products. That's why you're going to continue to see the rollout of all these structured products, ETPs, DATs, other things that are publicly listed that are easily available and tradable within a stock portfolio or by traditional advisors. You've heard Mr. Wonderful talk about the 12th sector of the S&P 500. That's how they do that. It's not through owning the bearer asset. We are very unique at Digital Wealth Partners in providing institutional grade custody and accounts for our clients in their name to hold the bearer asset. I'm talking to the banks, I'm talking to the institutions. They use Fireblocks and Copper and a lot of these other infrastructure providers, including Ripple Custody, pool assets. They don't segregate stuff out. It's very unique what we've been able to create at Anchorage for our clients. And it was done specifically this way because that's how I wanted it done. Because I want things segregated, in bankruptcy remote, insured, not commingled, not in an omnibus account with an overlay or another structure on top of it. For the accounting, I want it to be in your name. I want you to have control of it. Make decisions, for the assets. Multi-sig, beneficiaries. Like there's a lot of things that we've worked really hard to be able to curate for somebody that owns large amounts of XRP or Bitcoin or Solana. Many of our clients that are holding larger amounts of crypto want the benefit of institutional custody with the benefits of cold storage and self-ownership, right? So that's why we've structured it the way that we have. Anyway, but back to your question here, I think that it'll be those specific cryptos that get the tax designation. And it may just be in the specific application of use unless they're no longer available to the public. And in which case, I think that they could just say, okay, all of it is tax-free. And that would actually make a lot of sense if they did it that way, because they're going to incentivize you to sell it. Borrowing against it will be more expensive than selling it in the short term. Cost to benefit, if you wait it out and you knew that the appreciation was going to continue to grow, it's definitely way more expensive to sell it. But the perception people have is, again, taxes are your largest cost. So if they remove those and that friction, a lot of people's appetite to sell is going to become much higher. I will continue to borrow. Even if it costs me more than selling in the short term, I will continue to borrow against my crypto. And XRP in particular, because I'm not selling the golden goose. So again, just my 2 cents. Would love to see that happen, and I do think it is likely on those specific assets, because to be able to settle value, you don't want to have to rack up every single little change in settlement when you liquidate it. Excuse me. Chris says, I have 130,000 XRP. Just had you guys help set up the LLC. What's next? Awesome, my man. Love to work with you. Thank you so much for trusting us and working with us. You're going to want to go over to digitalwealthpartners.net. That's digitalwealthpartners.net, and go to the contact us form there. And then you just fill that out, and our team will walk you through what to do to onboard with us now that you have the LLC set up and in place and ready to go. I look forward to working with you and helping to grow and preserve your wealth over the long term, my man. Let's see here. Lot of questions in the chat tonight. We got Horton. Thank you for the super chat. M777 says, hey, blessings, Mr. Legend. Thank you. Blessings to you too. If we can't work with you with less than 100,000 XRP, what's the best way to be prepared before price appreciation if you're holding 10,000 XRP? educate yourself. And this is going to sound like a sales pitch, but if you join the mastermind, I think you're going to get a lot of benefit from that. You're going to be around a lot of people that are just a few steps ahead of you. Like, that's really kind of the secret sauce. You know, some people want mentors that are miles ahead of them and like billionaires or whatever else. It's hard for them to remember what it was like in your shoes. And they can give you some really like high level advice and some golden nuggets. It takes a little while to like digest those and actually understand what the action items are for that. But if you're working with somebody and around other people that are just a few steps ahead of you, they just went through it. It's a very recent and visceral experience for them, and they can provide you a lot of guidance so that you don't have any missteps or hit any potholes in that process. So, you know, Mastermind, I think, would be a great value for you. In addition to that, and let's say you don't want to spend the $2 to join the Mastermind, which cool. I get that. Put it in XRP or go invest it. I get it. I would just start educating yourself. Look at what millionaires do, read books by millionaires, read autobiographies, self-help books, financial education, business education, and resources. I would be looking at all of that. I'd be looking at YouTube on a regular basis and Googling or looking up, you know, what the wealthy do, how they manage their money in their estate, how to protect things from creditors, different insurance products that you can use and leverage. I would just educate myself on all the different tools and financial education that I could find. Because $1,000 XRP at 10,000 XRP, you're looking at $1 million. Actually, 10 million bucks. $100 XRP would give you $1 million. And then, you know, beyond that, when XRP gets to $10,000 a piece, you'd have 10,000 times 10,000. Handy dandy calculator. I'm going to break it out for you just to make sure I'm right here. Get 10,000 times 10,000. Looks like I'm going to need a different calculator. There's too many zeros there. So I think it's 100 million. If you really do have that much money, like, again, you should only have to get rich once. And if you're protecting it, if you're mitigating taxes, if you're putting it in a position to have uncorrelated risk, it's diversified in some manner, and it's, you know, moderate to low risk on the majority of what you put it into, and maybe you've got some, you know, small allocation to high risk stuff for some asymmetric bets, similar to like this, right? Like, you don't have to have that much money to make a lot of money, but if you lose, you know, just a little bit of money, it's not as big a deal. So again, I would, you know, read the Family Office book, read Wealth and Numbers, read Borrowed from Your Grandchildren, Richest Man in Babylon, Think and Grow Rich. There's lots of books out there that I would highly recommend. And we have a whole channel in the Mastermind about all the books that I've read and that helped me with my financial education. So again, just another resource over there. If that sounds cool, again, you can get it for $2 if you just use the code Beyond Broke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you your first month there. And I'm pretty sure the book channel's in the general chat. So it's $25 a month in perpetuity. And it's month to month. It's not at contract base. It's month to month, and we have 8,000 people that have decided to stay there every single month and continue to capture the value that we're providing in the Mastermind. So I try to make things like a no-brainer. I want people to get so much value. They're like, wow, I would pay more for this. That's how I want people to feel. John, what's up, man? He says, Jake sold XLM and all my others and rolled it into XRP. My man. Not financial advice, like you said. P.S. And I used my house to my safe amount. All in, bro. Save me a space. I love that, dude. I've talked about this before, but like there's a few times in your life when you find something, and if you are able to take a big swing and you can see it coming right down the center and you know you're going to knock it out of the park, those are the chances you take. It sounds like you have. So kudos to you for rolling it, taking a risk and betting on your future. Again, like you said, not financial advice. I only tell you guys where I'm positioned and what I'm doing, and then you make your own decisions. You're all grown-ups, hopefully, that are watching this. So kudos to you, man. Look forward to working with you in the near future. I'm going to take one more, and then we're going to wrap it up tonight. We got scrolling through the chat. Still going. Oh, there was one. I think I got one more. Here we go. Real G. He says, "Hey Jake, what do you think about going to Puerto Rico to mitigate taxes? God bless." That's a great question. So Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. There's no cap gains there and 4% flat tax on income. You do have to reside there at least 6 months and 1 day out of the year. The infrastructure sucks in Puerto Rico. So anytime there's a hurricane or a bad storm, I hope you have a very nice home. Homes there are going to cost you a lot of money at this point. There's been a lot of people that have moved there to take advantage of the taxes. You need something that's self-sufficient with backup generators and your own well and a bunch of other stuff. So, to really do it right in Puerto Rico, you're going to need somewhere between $7 and $10 million just for the home. Probably going to want some type of boat to get around the island, or a Jeep, to be able to do stuff. To import the stuff is a little more expensive. To live there, cost of living is higher. But again, you do get the tax benefits, but you do have to reside there for at least 6 months out of the year. There are a lot of crypto bros and good people that have moved there to Puerto Rico. You are going to be among other wealthy people if you're living there. And there is a large disparity between the locals and the people that have moved there. But a lot of the economic value that's been generated at this point have been because there's a lot of people that have moved there over the past 5 years. So I do think things are coming up, but again, the infrastructure still sucks. I would visit first to see what you think and what you like, and if you do want to live there, because it is a pretty significant commitment to live there for at least 6 months out of the year. And it's likely that you are going to have hurricane damage on your residence at some point, biannually, probably. So you're going to need the money to be able to pay for flooding and all that stuff, because you're not going to be able to get the insurance on it. There's a lot of considerations when you're living there. So there are benefits on the taxes, but there's a lot of drawbacks and downside too. What I tell the mastermind and a lot of people is, if you do become extremely wealthy, the point is to be able to enjoy your life, upgrade the quality of your life, and live wherever you want. And if wherever you want has really high taxes, you are blessed enough to be able to afford them. There is one person that just moved from New York to Australia that texted me today. Shout out to Ryan. He's good people. But yeah, both of those jurisdictions suck for taxes. I don't think it's a big change for him there in Australia versus New York. He was already at 50% anyway. But it's beautiful weather. He's there on the Golden Coast. He wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. He loves being there, right? And if you do come into a lot of money, if you are successful, that is the luxury that you will have, is you can choose where you live. Most people tend to choose where they're treated best. If you listen to Digital Nomad or Nomad Capitalist, Nomad Capitalist talks about all the different jurisdictions and the benefits of having multiple passports and all the other stuff that goes along with that. So travel, figure out where you want to live. And if that happens to coincide with a beautiful place and tax benefits, all the better. I like Dubai. I like Portugal, Cyprus. Switzerland's cool, a little cold for my taste. Caymans, Bermuda. Also got to worry about some hurricanes and stuff down there. Florida, no state tax, lots of property tax. Texas, no state tax, lots of property tax. California, just a lot of taxes. There's not a whole lot of benefit there. So anyway, that's what I would say. I think it's good for some people, and then it sucks for others because they don't want to make the commitment of living in an area with poor infrastructure all the time for 6 months and a day. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Again, thank you for taking time out of your evening to listen to me. If you do want half off of the LLC, again, you can go to digitalfamilyoffice.io and you can use the code 50OFF, 50OFF LLC. Get you everything for $2,000 to set yourself up for success. Justin Kincaid, wake up, Uncle Danny. Hope you're doing good, brother. Appreciate you taking time out of your evening to talk to me and be on here. This person with a Telegram is a scam. Also another scam. I'm not on Telegram. I'm not on WhatsApp. Do not message me. It's not me. If I message you on there, it's a scam. The only way we communicate with people is through email. Okay. I will message you back if you message the real account. We will respond to you, but outside of that circumstance, we are not ever reaching out to anybody else. And if we've asked you to send us anything for Telegram or WhatsApp, it's a scam. It's not me. Again, Web3 scam, decentralized wallet scam, Flare airdrop scam. I can't, like, we're spending thousands of dollars a month to try to get this stuff removed. I'm doing everything I can to make sure that we're doing what we can to help people and keep them from losing stuff. But if you do lose stuff, again, if you're part of the mastermind, we will help you get it back. We have a team that's specifically doing that for us over there at Secura. If you're Carbon 1 or higher, all you got to do is go through the portal. You're going to be good to go. I can't guarantee that they're going to get your stuff back, but the faster you can contact them, the faster they're going to be able to lock it down with the DOD and the DOJ to get your assets back to you. So again, if you want to join the mastermind, we would love to have you in there. You can use the code BEYONDBROKE, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO like Mary Oscar gets you the first month for $2 there in Carbon 1. And then last but not least, once you get the LLC set up and you have, a pretty good bag of XRP or your assets appreciate. And again, we're working on ways to be able to work with people that have less than 100,000 in the near future. So if you do have your LLC already, you're already in position. But if you are in that spot today and would like to work with us to get institutional custody, access to returns, and the ability to borrow against your assets, along with advisory, again, sometimes you just want somebody to be able to talk to and figure out what the best solution is for you and your family, especially when you're going to come into millions of dollars in the near future. And if all of that sounds great to you and you do want access to those things, you go to digitalwealthpartners.net and use the contact us form there. So that's going to be it for me tonight. Appreciate you guys taking time out of your Monday to hang out with me. We'll be back Wednesday night for another live and all of the questions. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and we will see you guys on the next one.